Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Mark Madrid, Associate Administrator for the U.S. Small Business Administration, and we're here to talk mentorship. So we're going to take just a bit to build our audience here. Welcome tonight, especially to our small business owners across America. We welcome you tonight. Happy National Mentoring Month. And we see many folks joining us from across the country. And thank you.
Hi.
We're ready to get started.
How are you?
Hello,
Thank you.
hello,
Nice to see
welcome.
you.
Doing well. And great to see you again. My name is Mark Madrid, Associate Administrator for the United States Small Business Administration, and we're here to talk mentorship. Happy Mentoring Month. And I can tell you on behalf of our remarkable administrator of the SBA, Isabella Casillas Guzman, she knows and feels so strongly about how mentorship could be a secret sauce for our small business owners across America to grow, to expand, to start up, to scale. And so tonight, I'm excited that on National Mentoring Month, that was a proclamation this year for this month by President Biden. It's so important to President Biden, Vice President Harris, and of course, Administrator Guzman. So I'm delighted tonight to feature one of our partners that makes this happen, and that is SCORE. SCORE across America, over 10,000 volunteer mentors across America, across hundreds of chapters. So thank you to SCORE, CEO Bridget Weston, if you're watching, of course, and your leadership staff, all the SCORE chapters, the SCORE directors, the SCORE chairs and co-chairs. A big thank you from the Small Business Administration. And now let's get to the business at hand. We have wonderful experts here, and I am not going to we have to do them justice. They are going to introduce themselves. And we have Dyann and Nicole here. Dyann is one of our fabulous SCORE mentors from New York. And we have, as we should, if we're talking small businesses, we have a small business here at the table, Nicole. So Dyann, would you start off with introducing yourself? We're excited to have you here. And of course, we wouldn't be here without you, Nicole. So Dyann, please introduce yourself for about a minute. Then we'll flip over to Nicole, and then we'll get our conversation going about how mentoring specifically can help our small business.
I'm a certified SCORE mentor, and I started a business with $5,000 renting furnishings for movies and TV, and the $5,000 grew into a multi-million-dollar business that I'm happy to say I sold a few years ago, and I wish I had had a mentor. I think I would have even moved faster. So I'm really happy to be working with Nicole and sharing what I know.
Thank you, Dyann. Thank you for your service and that strong story of owning a business. I mean, it's a dream of many's to sell it. And then serving our community of small business owners.
Sure.
Nicole, please tell us about yourself and welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yes, so my name is Nicole Ehrbar. I am the owner of a small business called The Gray Pearl. It's located in New York City. I transitioned from a PR background into a retail store. So I started the process last year, and I kind of knew what I didn't know. So I was looking for someone to kind of help me give some guidance. I'd done some research, came across the SBA website where I came across the mentorship program, and I was introduced to Dyann. So it's been tremendously helpful. I kind of know what I don't know. And so Dyann has been really helpful in terms of guiding me and, focusing on things that maybe I was not necessarily overlooking, but really weren't going into a deep dive. And Kismet, Dyann lives very close to my store. So we are able to connect in person as well as virtually, which has been really nice to have her come to the store and giving her feedback.
And before we get started, Nicole, thank you so much. I mean, what was that moment like when you said, I'm going to be my own boss?
It was very rewarding. It was scary and exciting at the same time. I think I was initially hoping it would feel empowering. And once I did it, it's a little scary. Dyann's been really helpful in terms of also being a cheerleader. I think that having a small business, as I'm sure most of you know, it can get lonely at times and you need someone to kind of constantly be a cheerleader. So in terms of providing business advice and recommendations, she's also been provides with encouragement, which has been really helpful. It's nice to have her in my corner.
Well, I think that's a great segue. Dyann, what kind of services does SCORE provide to help entrepreneurs?
First of all, free.
Mm.
Yeah,
Great
the
word.
volunteers consist of business people and entrepreneurs who are volunteering their time with the goal of helping mentees to create, grow, and start their businesses. We have webinars. We have one-to-one training like I have with Nicole. And we also bring in co-mentors when someone has more experience in an area where one of my mentees may be, so that we can both give more advice and help someone grow. We have roundtables for the mentees to do so they can get to know their peers. We have educational not only webinars, but also materials, templates for business plans and such. Basically help them to get started, but to grow and learn professional ways to grow. And I think Nicole and I have worked on that very successfully.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And we're going to get to Nicole in a second, because I love what Nicole said earlier. I mean, basically, in vulnerability, there's strength. And can you tell us, Nicole, what kind of services were provided to you? And before we answer that question, we're not going to we're not going to have a Q&A session, but we are going to have a follow-up to this session. But there's one question that I do want to address. How do you find a SCORE chapter near you? Well, you go to sba.gov. So SBA, like Small Business Administration.gov. In that homepage, you'll see a section called Find Local Assistance. You type in your zip code, and you'll find the SCORE chapter closest to you. So back to Nicole, what kind of services did Dyann give you in SCORE overall to help you in your particular phase of growth?
We started working together as I was developing my business plan. So she really helped to have another set of eyes look at my business plan, gave me unbiased feedback, really encouraged me to build out areas that I kind of wasn't that strong, things that really weren't my strong suit. So she helped me to really kind of re-examine those areas and make sure I had a real strong understanding of those areas that maybe were not necessarily part of my background. That was really helpful. Also just taking a look at really the budget, the numbers, and making sure that I was really well-versed on the P&L statement, and things I needed to be aware of. She had already done this journey, and the backgrounds were somewhat similar in that she was also working not necessarily straightforward retail, but had an understanding of my business. So her expertise really helped me tremendously in terms of streamlining a lot of processes, really giving me some feedback and advice to help me avoid making mistakes. I think because she had so much experience, there were things we kind of just went through quickly, where it would have taken me probably months to kind of figure out on my own. So that was really helpful.
That's an excellent response. You know, Administrator Guzman often says that our small business owners, most of them do not have bankers and legal support and CPAs on speed dial. And so you talked about having somebody that has an unbiased, objective approach, second eyes. Dyann, tell us more about that experience, specifically when it came to Nicole. I'm sure you had a big, listening session and had an ear, right? I always say, let's have ears like elephants, not hippos. Elephants have big ears. So I'm sure there's a listening session that you took very seriously.
The first step is to really read Nicole's profile. The mentee's profile needs to be analyzed before you even speak to the mentee. Possibly, if you don't know that much about someone's business, to get familiar, look it up, find out what that business really entails. So you come in with some knowledge. Then I get on the phone with them. I send them an invitation, and then I get on the phone and I ask them about their business, what they are looking for, how I can help them, what their goals are, and what challenges they are facing. And we kick off from there.
That's excellent. I mean, doing your homework is definitely something that we want to be known for in terms of when we're talking to business owners. And so thank you for that response. Nicole, probably a lot of you, the biggest thank you that I have is to Nicole and all our small business owners joining us here today. Nicole, can you tell us a little bit about what you experienced during the heat of the pandemic in terms of lockdown and all that, and how you leaned in to, I'm not even going to speak on your behalf. How
Yes,
was
I
that, and
actually
how
opened
were
my
you
store after we
supported?
came out of the pandemic, but I will say it was kind of a spark for me to kind of to go in this direction. I was working in a corporate job, and I felt like I wanted to connect with people more than I was doing so in that job, being behind Zoom for quite some time. A lot of people that came into my shop when I first opened, their reaction was, "You're so bold to open a store coming out of a pandemic and potentially into a recession." I don't know if it was, bold or just a little bit naive, but I just felt like people really wanted to get back and connect in person. And that was a real inspiration for me to create this space. I wanted a space where I could connect with the community and have people come into this shop and connect with small businesses like myself, because I do carry a lot of small brands in the shop. So it was really important for me to kind of highlight those brands and also help bring small business back to New York. I think, being in New York I've been here for almost 20 years, over 20 years. The small businesses are what really makes the spirit of the city. It's the restaurants, the bars, the small bookshops, the small stores. And I wanted to kind of play a part and have a little more purpose in terms of helping bring that back to New York.
And Dyann, I mean, the experiences that you had during the pandemic and the businesses that you supported, they probably helped you, right? Support Nicole, making that bold step, to be her own boss, coming out of the
Absolutely. We
pandemic.
spoke during the pandemic and in the prep period while Nicole was still working, and we really studied what she knows about and what she needed to know about. I think especially analysis and business plan and finance. We talked about her opening the store and delayed her lease a bit so that it would be at a time where not only was she prepared, but we were out of the pandemic more. So I think that was a real success. And it really gives me great pleasure to see, my most pleasure is to see how successful Nicole has become, and that she appreciates me. And I think that's the most I get out of mentoring, is when you get acknowledged and are so lucky as to have a great mentee that actually moves ahead.
That's very powerful words. I mean, Administrator Guzman calls our small businesses the giants of our economy. And so every time I walk through this office, I say it all the time. There's no honor higher than serving our U.S. small business owners. I'm a product of small businesses, and my dad died of COVID during the pandemic. So it makes this job even so much more obligatory. And so I want to pivot back to Nicole. Nicole, if there's somebody watching out there who has not accessed a mentor, who has not didn't know about SCORE prior to joining us, what would your advice be to other small businesses who are thinking, gosh, I may need a mentor, I'm thinking about it, or maybe I've had one before and I need to pick it up again, or maybe I need to choose another mentor because one didn't work out the way I had hoped it would? What is your advice to those small businesses
Yeah, I would say
watching
definitely
us
go
tonight?
for it. I think the more insights and the more kind of, feedback you have from someone who's a seasoned professional, the better. I think, Dyann touched on, there's things I knew and there's things I didn't know. I think if I was up to my own, just my own timeline, I think I probably would have focused on things that I knew best and kind of not as much time on the things I didn't know. And I kind of flipped the switch and I spent more time on the things I didn't know to really perfect those areas. I was held accountable, where if I was working on my own, I'm not sure I would have been as accountable for those, more challenging aspects of opening the business.
And Dyann, thank you, Nicole. That's very inspiring, and that's exactly what the small business owners need to know. And I love the way you just answer the question directly, and that's why we have an Instagram audience tonight. Dyann, I have to say, you said earlier, starting the conversation, that you wish you would have had a mentor. Is this somehow paying it back and getting in that seat where you were years ago and saying, you know what? I'm going to make a better pathway for something that I didn't have and get back
Without a
to
doubt,
this country?
I think it's very important, I'm retired, and to make the time to help and be a mentor. I'm a mentor to several people. It's not always just one. I brought in a co-mentor when I needed to know more and the person needed a little extra advice. And I think that had I had one, my business would have moved not only faster, but better. And I had some of the challenges that Nicole has had in terms of organization, planning, finance, the ones that people like us may not want to focus on as much. We are creatives. And if I had had someone earlier, I learned by doing, I learned by hiring people. But I think that all in all, I enjoy that I can do this and give back in such a rewarding way for myself.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for your service to this country. And I'll end with, as it should be, with Nicole. Nicole, what are your hopes and dreams for Gray Pearl?
I mean, I hope to expand the business. I just launched my website. So I have a website. It's thegraypearl.com, and the Gray Pearls with the GREY. To expand my website, have additional locations, and really bring on smaller businesses that maybe don't have the presence at a larger retailer, but I can support those smaller businesses and highlight the makers behind those pieces. And yeah, just kind of encourage people to kind of connect. My focus is home, so all things for the home with an emphasis around things to the table. So tabletop glassware, textiles, pantry items like olive oils and salts. One of the inspirations was to really encourage people, especially coming out of the pandemic, to connect again and do that around the table. So I hope that my space encourages people, the business encourages people to connect, get together, entertain, and support small businesses.
Now, America, isn't that the spirit of small businesses right there? Nicole, congratulations. We're behind you. You're inspirational. You've inspired this audience tonight. Dyann, thank you for the service to this country. And I'll close to all of you a special thank you for hearing Nicole's story tonight and hearing more about the SCORE Network. Once again, over 10,000 volunteers across America, across hundreds of chapters, the SCORE Network. And you can find your SCORE chapter and SCORE mentors by going to sba.gov, sba.gov, SBA like Small Business Administration. And then you go find local assistance, you type in your zip code, and you'll see the resources that are available to you. Our district offices, which are our antennas on the ground. You'll see our SBA resource partners that include SCORE, our small business development centers, our women's business centers, and veterans business outreach centers. And thank you, Administrator Guzman, for your vision to support our small businesses. To everybody on Insta Live, please join us and follow us on SBA Instagram, and we hope to see you at our next session. Have a great evening, America.
Bye.
Bye.